What's up, guys? This is Brian again from Lake Kicker Scuba and Marine. If you are new to our channel, do me a huge favor, hit this little subscribe button over here and ding that little bell as well. That way you guys are going to be notified every time we upload new content. Now, we are on Chapter 4 in our series of the SSI Science of Diving program. And in Chapter 4, we're going to be looking at equipment and equipment mechanics. We're even going to look at the history of dive gear as well to kind of see how it's changed over the years. We'll talk a little bit about different training methods based off whatever type of equipment configuration you may be using. But this is hopefully going to give you a better understanding about dive equipment, and plus hopefully this is going to help you pass your final exam for your Science of Diving program. So with that being said, let's jump into Chapter 4 of the SSI Science of Diving program. So the first part of Chapter 4 that we're going to talk about is the importance of taking good care of your gear. And if you know anything about myself, one of the things that I tell most of my students, if not all my students, is if you take good care of your equipment will take good care of you. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, in short, God gave you lungs. He didn't give you gills here on your neck. You simply cannot go underwater and stay for a lengthy period of time and survive without good quality dive gear. And you want to take good care of that. If you take good care of your gear, you're going to get the best of the investment that you made in purchasing that gear as well. So always make sure you take really good care of your gear. Now, if you want a really good class that's going to teach you how to do that, that's going to be beneficial to you, check out the SSI Equipment Techniques program, because this class is going to give you all the knowledge, skills, equipment, and experience to take very good care of your gear and to get the best investment that you can from your dive gear. So now let's talk a little bit about the history of dive gear, where it came from, where it's at today, and where it's actually going. Well, you know, recreational dive gear has been around since the 1950s. It really became popularized in the late 50s, early 60s from the Sea Hunt TV show. But you know, there were certain things that Mr. Mike Nelson didn't have that we've got today. And primarily one of those things, of course, is dive computers and BCDs. Yes, Mike Nelson never had a BCD. He had a harness system that he wore, and he always weighted himself for the depth that he was going to so that he could always swim up. This is where we get that balanced rig from. Well, today we still have several different systems that we wear when we're underwater, whether it's an air delivery system, this is your tank and your regs, a buoyancy system, this is your BCD, some type of exposure system, whether it's wetsuits, dry suits, hoods, gloves, boots, things like that. We also have accessory systems, information systems, and all different types of things that we use today as divers. But it takes all those systems to come together in what we call the total dive system to actually go diving and stay safe when you're underwater. So one of the biggest changes in dive gear since, say, the 1950s today is what we actually use it for. If we think back to the 1950s, we didn't have BCDs. BCDs didn't come around until the mid to late 60s. And then, of course, BCDs have went through a lot of different adaptations. We had the old horseshoe style, then we went into the jacket style, then we had integrated styles, then we had back inflate styles, now we got back plate and wings, and there's even side mount BCDs today where you're either diving with a single tank on your back, dual tanks on your back, single tank on your side, dual tanks on your side, or if you get into technical diving, you might be diving 3, 4, 5, even up to 6 tanks or whatnot. So there's a lot of adaptability in dive gear, and choosing the right dive gear for you is really going to be determined by what type of diving or what type of diver you want to become. Now, the next part of Chapter 4 that we're going to talk about is the dive cylinder. And there are a slew of different cylinders out there that you can actually choose from. We got different types, different sizes. Did you know that they start around the 1 cubic foot and go all the way up past the 120 cubic foot? Yes, you can get a 1 cubic foot bottle. That's your smallest little spare air, and it goes all the way up past 120 cubic foot. We have high pressure versus low pressure. We have steel, aluminum, and composite. And there is a slew of different cylinders that you can choose from. Your SSI Science of Diving instructor is going to do everything that they can to pick the right cylinder for you. Now, if we jump back a few chapters, remember when we talked about being able to calculate your SAC rate and your RMV rate? This is where this is really going to come into play here, because by being able to calculate that, you can calculate exactly what cylinder you need on a dive based off the weight of the cylinder and how much cubic footage or how many liters of air that cylinder will actually hold. So everything that we've learned up to this point is going to make it a little bit easier for us to choose the right cylinder for the type of diving that we're wanting to do. Now let's go down the deep rabbit hole of regulators. There is a ton of information in this section of chapter 4 that's going to be really useful for you, especially if you're in the market to get a new regulator. Now there are different types of regulators, different designs of regulators, and different mechanics to those regulators. In short, the two different types are din and yoke. And whether you like din or yoke is really going to be a personal preference. It's also going to be based off whatever type of diving you're doing. Me personally, I use both. I like both. I don't go one way or the other as far as which one's my favorite. But when we really talk about the different designs, this is where I kind of get picky on my regs. We have overbalanced, we have balanced, and we have non-balanced regulators. Personally, I like a balanced regulator. I think they're some of the best breathing ones out there, and just about every manufacturer is going to make some type of balanced regulator. In short, all balance means is it's going to breathe the same regardless of the depth you're at. Now, the mechanics behind the way they work, there's really two different types. You've got piston regs and you've got diaphragm regs. Now, once again, I don't really prefer one over the other, although I do believe that the diaphragms breathe a little bit better than, say, the piston regs. However, there is a new dual piston reg out that breathes just as good as, say, any balanced diaphragm reg I've ever owned. Alright guys, so now let's talk a little bit about full face masks, what they are, and whether or not it's right for you. Now, a full face mask is nothing more than a mask or a visor that covers up your entire face, and most of them nowadays have some type of integrated second stage or second stage regulator that allows you to breathe. Now, they have a lot of great benefits, such as they protect you from the environment. Maybe you're diving in a hazmatic situation. They keep your face a whole lot warmer than what a traditional mask and reg is, and they also can provide communications. Now, I personally wear one 3 to 4 days a week because I do a ton of public safety and salvage diving. But whenever I'm just out diving for fun, I actually prefer a traditional mask and reg set. But whether or not it's going to be right for you, that's going to be a determination that you're going to have to make on your own. Now, if you want to learn a little bit more about full face mask diving, check out the SSI Full Face Mask Diver course. Yes, there is a full-on course on how to use these masks, and I would actually encourage you to get properly trained before you go purchase one and take it out diving. Now, earlier in this video, we talked a little bit about BCDs and how they've been adapted over the years. There's really only 4 major types of BCDs. We have a jacket style, we have an industrialized back inflate style, of course we have a modular system such as a backplate wing, and then we're going to have a specific type of BCD, say for side mount diving. Now, which one's going to be right for you? Well, a lot of that is going to be determined by your personal comfort, your budget, and of course what type of diving you're wanting to go out and do. Obviously, if you want a side mount dive, you need a side mount specific BCD. If you want to go with a backplate and wing, this is going to allow you to transition, say, from singles or doubles. Or if you just want a good travel BCD, maybe a back inflate is all you need. Or of course, if you want a good workhorse, get you a jacket style. They basically work for everything unless you're going to be diving doubles or side mount. So you really need to decide what's going to be best for you. Check with your local SSI training center to see what BCDs they have in stock. And of course, I would encourage you to buy local, because when it comes time to service, you don't want to have to send that BCD off to get it serviced. You want to be able to get it serviced locally. Now, the next part of chapter 4 that we're going to be talking about is the weighting system. Now, there are several different types of systems. You can wear a weight belt. You can do integrated BCDs where they have the weight pouches attached. You can obviously add weight pouches to a system that doesn't have, say, weights integrated. And then, of course, you can add weights by simply changing your dive cylinder. Maybe you go from aluminum to steel, or if you are in a backplate and wing, maybe you go from aluminum to steel to give you a little bit of extra ballast out there. Now, we, of course, have quick detachable weights and we have non-detachable weights. Typically, divers who dive non-detachable, they are diving what's called balanced rigs. Basically, we weight ourselves for a given depth and we can always swim up regardless of how much weight we have. Now, that is something that obviously takes a lot of practice, and as I stated earlier, check out the SSI Perfect Buoyancy class, because this class is really going to go over your personal weighting needs, how to get properly trimmed, and how to be perfectly neutrally buoyant when you're in the water column. It's only going to make you a much better diver when you do this, and of course, it's a great class to take in the wintertime, because if you can't get out and dive because maybe you don't have the right exposure suit, take a class that's only an academic and pool only course, such as the SSI Perfect Buoyancy class. Now, whether you're an old school diver who still uses analog gauges and you plan your dives with a set of dive tables, or you're a new age diver that uses some type of digital computer system, we still need some type of information system that's going to give us the basic information we need throughout our dive. We need to know how, of course, how deep we are, how long we can stay, and of course, how long we've been there. We also need to be able to determine how much gas is still left in our cylinder. This is where your analog gauge gauges or your air integrated computer is really going to come into play. Now, dive computers have changed a ton over the years. I remember my first computer in the 80s was really, really expensive, but it really didn't do much for me. Nowadays, computers are very, very affordable, and it's got every feature known to man in it. So dive computers have changed, but more importantly, they keep us safe as a diver, and they make our dives more fun and a little bit more comfortable as well. Now, if we go back a couple of chapters to where we talked a little bit about what happens as we descend in the water column, and we talked a little bit about light reflecting, refracting, and getting absorbed, we also talked about a thermocline. This is that abrupt temperature change where you're going to have a significant temperature change the deeper you go. And we always want to make sure we're wearing the appropriate exposure suit. Now, this, of course, can be a wetsuit or a dry suit, but we also got hoods, gloves, and boots that we really need to concern ourselves with. Now, a lot of times I'll see divers make the mistake of saying, well, the surface temperature is this, and I only need this thickness of suit. However, if they're diving a quarry or even deep in the lake or whatnot, as they descend down, they go through that thermocline and they realize this suit's not going to be appropriate for the depth I'm going to. So you want to make sure you're checking your local SSI retail center to see what suits they offer and what's going to be appropriate for you. Maybe if you do want to dive year round, you might want to make that investment in getting a dry suit, or at least say a thicker wetsuit, such as a 5 mil or 7 mil, that's going to allow you to dive not only to deeper depths, but also dive year round. And to be honest, there's not a big deal about owning multiple suits. I have suits for warm water, I have suits for cold water, I have suits that I wear in hazmatic situations, and I'm a much happier diver because of it. Now, it is an investment. Just like all your dive gear, you want to make sure that you're making the best investment to keep you safe and keep you comfortable when you're out diving. All right, guys, so we're going to round down chapter 4 really quick and talk a little bit about the accessory system. Now, there are a slew of different types of accessories out there, anywhere from, say, flashlights to cameras to even just spare parts in general. Whatever accessories you decide to purchase is really going to be based on what type of diving you're doing and what your needs are. Now, I would encourage you to have quite a bit of accessories, but only take the accessories with you while diving that are pertinent to that specific dive. If you're going to be down there spearfishing, you might not want to take a DPV with you. If you're going to be down there, say, taking photography, you might not want to take a search and recovery lift bag with you. Only take the accessories that's going to be important. Also, make sure you secure your accessories appropriately. If you're putting them in pockets, that's great. If you're clipping them off, still make sure that they're secured in a manner that they're not going to create any type of entanglement hazards. Now, the last thing that we're going to talk about, of course, is spare parts kits. It's important that you have spare parts so that you can save a dive, say, at the dive site. You might get there and you've got a leaky hose and need to replace an O-ring. Or maybe you broke your mast strap on the boat. It's very easy to pull out another mast or simply replace the mast strap so that you can still have a fun and enjoyable and safe dive when you're out there having a good time underwater. All right, guys, so that's going to do it for chapter 4. I really hope this video and all the videos in this series makes you a more educated and safer diver, and I really hope this helps you pass your Science of Diving program as well. But if you did find this video helpful, give me a big thumbs up. Drop me a comment down below if you got any questions, comments, or concerns, and we will discuss it. But stay tuned for chapter 5, because this is where we're going to be getting into the ecology part of the Science of Diving program, and I really think that you're going to find that very interesting. But until our next video, take care, God bless, and I'll see you in the next one.